Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Football Chuggu Podcast. My name is Thomas Durning, and today I'm joined by my co-host, Pearse McLaughlin. Hello, Pearse.
Hello, how you doing?
I'm doing well. On today's podcast, we'll be reacting to last weekend's English Premier League and Scottish Premier League results. We'll be giving a preview of the two Champions League semi-final matches this week. Talking a little bit of European football news outside of British football. And at the end of the podcast, Pearse will be giving a rundown of all the latest Asian football news. So we'll start off, as always, with the English Premier League. So on Saturday, the 26th of April, the matches finished Chelsea 1, Everton 0, Newcastle 3, Ipswich Town 0, Southampton 1, Fulham 2, Wolves 3, Leicester 0, Brighton 3, West Ham 2. And then on Sunday, the 27th of April, we had Bournemouth 1, Man United 1, and Liverpool 5, Tottenham 1. So just before I ask you, Pearse, as a result of these matches that finished at the weekend, we can now confirm that Liverpool have been crowned the Premier League champions after their 5-1 victory against Tottenham. And we can also confirm that Ipswich have been relegated to the Championship after they were defeated by Newcastle 3-0. So I think we both know where to start, Pearse. I think we're just going to have to just get right into the Liverpool game. Obviously, that's the big news that they're confirmed champions. Firstly, Pearse, what was your thoughts on the match? And secondly, do you think Liverpool deserve to win the title?
Firstly, on the match, I didn't watch it, so I have absolutely no clue how the match went, but I can just look at the scoreline.
Well, I did.
So that I can leave that for you, but I'll just talk about Liverpool in the season as a whole. I was pretty busy last weekend. No, Liverpool in the season as a whole, I think they fully deserved it. There weren't a little mini blip around about the Champions League time when they get put out with PSG. They went out the cup competition as well, but I think throughout the whole season they've been fairly consistent. They've been the best going forward and the best, just basically the best from front to back. And I think they were on like a real high. And then you're always going to have a blip during the season, and it came roughly about fucking like just before Easter time, like February, March. But now they've kind of kicked back into gear, and now they're just kind of steamrolling towards the Championship. And then obviously with Tottenham, and let's be honest, Tottenham are been absolutely woeful this season. So it's no surprise that they beat them 5-1. Because Tottenham have only won one game in the last 8, and they've lost 6 and drawn 1. So it's not really great form. But Liverpool deservedly champions. I think the 5-1 just kind of rubber stamped it. But no, I thought, for example, I think there'll be so many Liverpool players in that team of the year. I think probably Salah's probably the standout player for me. Just new deal. Van Dijk's got a new deal. I think maybe it's a farewell for Trent, possibly to Madrid. We've touched on the three a lot this season, but I think you can maybe really see Arne Slot kick on next season with a squad and build on it, because they never really bought anybody this year, which a lot of people were surprised at. And obviously this team has felt the last hurdle last year under Klopp. Just to kind of they fell at the legs, but I think this time around, new ideas, new lease life. They look a bit more pragmatic in certain games, but they've still got that high energy, high press, and high quality throughout the side. And they, for me, thoroughly deserve champions.
I agree. So obviously, just on the match, Liverpool 5 goals, 5-star performance. They went 1-0 down in the match, but it didn't bother them at all. They quickly got into gear, and they rallied. Basically, they were just full on attacking. The whole match was spent in Tottenham's half. Great goals from the likes of Salah. Luis Diaz scored. McAllister scored a really good goal as well. So it was a great performance from Liverpool in what was a game that you needed to win the Championship. To score 5 goals they would have absolutely taken your hand off at the start of the week. So a brilliant performance from Liverpool. For Tottenham, the less said the better. To be fair, they were just, they went 1-0 up, but they were nowhere in the match. Just wide open in the middle of the park. The goals they conceded were really bad. They're 16th in the table. And yeah, it's just been an absolutely disastrous season for them in the Premier League. It's just really bad. I think they're on course to have the worst ever season in the Premier League, which just says it all. So yeah, Tottenham, they were never in that match. So Liverpool, 5-star performance. And then in terms of if they deserve to win the title, I think they do. Obviously, because they have won the title, so they obviously deserve it. But I think I said this a few weeks ago. I don't think this is the best Liverpool team I have seen. I remember the Klopp team when they first won the title a few years ago when they had the likes of Firmino, Mane, and Salah up front. I just felt that team was a little bit better, just in terms of like how fast they were. The front three, they had then compared to now, was better. I enjoyed watching that team
What about the team
that won the title.
with 99 points?
Exactly. I know. I enjoyed watching that team, but that won the first title a few years ago during the COVID season. Then I do this team, but that's not to say that I don't like this team, because this team have been really good. But I just think this Liverpool team, I think they've just won it based on consistency. They've just been throughout the whole season consistent, winning game after game. Their star players have been fit all season. I think that's a big thing as well. They've not lost Van Dijk or Salah. Like they play like every game for them, which is so important. And that's kind of valued the sort of younger players as well. That's kind of kept them going as well. And what an absolute brilliant first season Arne Slot's had, because myself, I will be honest, I didn't think that he would come in and have this sort of impact. Win the title, win the Premier League title in your first season is brilliant. It really is. I didn't expect it. But he's just been so calm and collected all season. And it's worked wonders for them. But for me, Liverpool very deserved to win the title. And the fact now that they've got Salah tied to a new deal and Van Dijk tied to a new deal, it does look like Trent's going to leave. But the fact that they've got the two players signed on will give Arne Slot a huge boost. And then in terms of the future, I think this summer coming up is going to be a big summer for Liverpool, because although they've won the title, I do think there is areas in that team that they have to improve to keep getting better. So it's going to be interesting to see how Liverpool fare in the summer, because I do think they need to.
I can tell you positions are going to strengthen: left back, midfield, striker.
Yeah, I definitely think they need a striker. Like Salah scores the goals, but I definitely think they do miss like a top.
I think Nunez is going to be going.
I think he is going to leave in the summer. It does look like it. But if Liverpool didn't have Salah, then I think they would be in big trouble.
Yeah.
So they definitely need to sign a top striker for me. It does look like they're going to sign a left back. It looks like Kirkej from Bournemouth is. I can see that one happening. It just kind of fits the profile. And yeah, as I said, I feel the best things have been made last summer. I don't think they'll go in for him again. I think he'll go somewhere else, but I definitely do think they'll go in and get a centre mid or a CDM this summer. So it's going to be a big summer for them. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. And yeah, but Liverpool won the title, and we both think it was deserved. I just want to quickly, before we move on, touch on West Ham, because we don't talk about West Ham a lot in this podcast, but they've had an absolute terrible season as well. They obviously got beat at the weekend again 3-2 against Brighton. I don't know if you saw Brighton's last minute goal. It was a absolute wonder strike from about 30 yards out. He just smashed it into the top corner. But West Ham, I mean, it's they're 17th. They can't get relegated now because the 3 teams have been confirmed. But they got backed really quite well. Last summer, I said at the start of the season, I thought they'd be quite an underdog. I thought they'd be fighting at the top end of the table, but it's just not transpired like that. And I'm quite surprised as well, considering the team that they've got. But Graham Potter, he came in January, and it's not really gone well for him since he's come in. So yeah, West Ham's not a great place to be at the moment. And yeah, the fact that they got beat again at the weekend, it's just confirmed that they've had a dreadful season. So I just wanted to touch on that about West Ham. I think that's one to keep an eye on next season as well.
Can I just say that, Tom?
Mhm.
This isn't always good enough after David Moyes, is it?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. They were quite adamant that they wanted David Moyes to move on.
They were happy to see him go. Won a
Yeah.
trophy, get him consistent to Europe, top
Yeah.
half finishes, and look at them now.
Yeah, I mean they're worse than they were.
Hmm.
I didn't really understand the big David Moyes thing, because I thought they were competing really well. But as you said, the grass isn't always greener.
Look what he's
And
done. Look what he's done for Everton.
Exactly. So I think West Ham might have missed a trick there. I think the owners sort of caved into the fans' demands of getting rid of him. And I think if he did stay this season, I don't think they'd been. No, I don't think I do. I know that I just know they wouldn't be in this position. So yeah, West Ham, it's very uncertain times for them. So yeah, just wanted to touch on that. But before we move on to the Scottish Premier League, we had the FA Cup semi-final. So just the 2 matches. So we had Crystal Palace and Aston Villa in the first semi-final. That finished 3-0 to Crystal Palace. And then on Sunday, we had Nottingham Forest versus Man City, which finished 2-0 to Man City. So we now have a confirmed Crystal Palace versus Man City FA Cup final. Did you see any of the 2 matches, Pearse? Did you get to see it?
No, I didn't get to see it, mate.
Well, so obviously Crystal Palace, fantastic result for them. They scored a great first goal through Eze. That was an absolute fantastic thing. They followed this up with Palace. I thought they were really good in the day. Oliver Glass has done a really good job there. And yeah, fully deserved. The front three is really good as well. Eze, Mateta, and Sarr. Really, really dangerous front three. And that centre mid from West Crystal Palace, the Adam Wharton. I don't know if you've ever seen him, Pearse, but wow,
Yeah.
he looks a
Really good.
top player.
But he came in last January through Blackburn, and he hit the ground running, and then I think he got a place with England, kind of in the fringes, and then he got injured to start this season, and the form took a turn. But since he's came back into the side, the results picked up again because he's one of these players. He's made the step up for the Championship, and he's seamless. And he's only 21-year-old, so for me, that's a massive coup. That's the market you should be going for. You don't if you can find James in the Championship, and they can adapt to football. You're onto something.
Yeah, no, he just looks a top player. He's quite big and strong as well in the middle of the park. He's really physical. He's got a good left foot as well. So I think Crystal Palace might have some difficulties keeping a hold of him in the future because I can see him going right to the top of the game. And then Aston Villa, they just did not perform at all. I was quite surprised at that. I thought they would, considering it was Unai Emery, and he's quite good at masterminding getting his teams to finals, but it never transpired. They were really poor in the day. And yeah, Crystal Palace probably deserved to go through. And then Nottingham Forest, Man City. A big result that for Man City, considering the season that they've had. They're now into an FA Cup final. Goals from Rico Lewis and Gvardiol were enough for them. And not the Forest. I mean, they had the chances. I think they hit the woodwork like 3 times in the match. But they just could not get the ball into the net, and it just wasn't their day. So yeah, Man City managed to navigate themselves into a final, and now they have a chance of winning the cup. And I would probably say they're the favourites, considering the experience they've got. But I definitely wouldn't rule Crystal Palace out, because every time, like, I just like to look at Crystal Palace. I like their team. I think they've got a really good team. And they've got a really good manager as well. So, and I'd actually like them to see. I'd like to see them win it. Crystal Palace. I like teams like that. That they're not the biggest clubs in the country, but it'd be good to see. It'd be a good change.
As long as Oliver Glasser doesn't start to applaud you, then so have to go 1-0 up.
Nah, as long as he does do that, I know. Well, they never won it when he did that.
That's when
he did that part. So just avoid it.
Times after you go 1-0 up, because
just avoid it. Don't do it.
Focus into the glory that is the FA Cup final. I mean,
no, I know. I don't think he will, because he actually has got experience of winning cups. He won Europa League in Frankfurt against Rangers.
Yeah.
So he knows fine well how to win cups. So yeah, that'll be a good one. But that's in a few weeks' time. We'll talk about that closer to the time. So yeah. So we'll move on now to the Scottish Premier League results. So on Saturday, the 26th of April, the match is finished. Dundee United 0, Celtic 5, Aberdeen 1, Hibs 0, Hearts 0, Dundee 1, Kilmarnock 2, Ross County 0, Motherwell 3, St Johnstone 2, and St Mirren 2, Rangers 2. So we had a full card of matches on Saturday. Yep. So just before I ask you, Pearse, we got it confirmed on Saturday that Celtic are crowned Scottish Premier League champions after their 5-0 victory against Dundee United. So as I asked you about Liverpool, Pearse, number one, what's your thoughts on the match if you saw it? And number two, do you think they deserve to win the title?
Yeah, I saw the game from start to finish. Thought, let's say, 5-star performance. Thought it was good to see Nicholas Kuhn back to his best, because he's been off the boil since the Bayern Munich game. Not at the same heights. So he's came back at the start. I was surprised because James Forrest the last couple of games has performed well when he's been drifting from the cold from his long absence from injury. Ademina was starting to get a couple of goals, and then he was dropped to the bench. And I think Jota's now potentially maybe out for the season with a sore injury at his knee with Clash Alan Campbell. But no, I thought Dundee United tried to defend and then hitting the counter. Long balls to Big Dalby, but he was marshalled by Cutler Vickers and sleeve scales quite easily. And then Celtic just kind of steamrolled through them. Because Dundee United have been a really good side this season. And deservedly in the top 6, pushing for Europe. But Celtic made light work of them. I thought probably the man of the match, there's 2 players for me that stood out, which Carl McGregor in the middle of the park and Dyson Mead in the left. I thought both of them were electric, and the heartbeat of the side, and thoroughly deserved it. I thought Celtic this season have been incredible, and they've deserved the title. But obviously they did go through a little mini wobble past Christmas, because obviously they had only lost 1 game in the previous calendar year in 2024. But in 2025, they've obviously lost 4 games in the league. So it's a bit unheard of. I thought a lot of fans and pundits alike all thought that Celtic might go an unbeaten season. But as you know, that's never the case. You cannot just turn up to games, and the games they did lose, the games they did lose and drop points, they deserve, because they didn't turn up. And if you don't turn up 100% for every fixture, then you don't have a right to win any game or get a positive result, because any team can beat you in any given day if you've got more height, more fight, more hunger, and that proved to be the case. But Celtic in the last 3 games just scored 15 goals, conceding 0. So it's pretty strong start, strong into the season, and obviously we've got a cup final on the horizon, and obviously the game will go preview pretty soon.
Yeah. Obviously, in terms of the match, well, Celtic won 5-0. I think you can say that they did deserve to win the match. You know, they were really good in the day. They actually didn't start the game that well. You know, they were quite timid at the start. You know, Dundee United had a couple of half chances, but they got that first goal through the OG, and they kind of just steamrolled the match from then. You know, a couple of goals from Nicholas Kuhn. I don't know if you saw his celebration. He kind of was quite a defensive celebration. You know, in terms of he was kind of making hand gestures in terms of trying to tell everyone that there's no need to talk about his form. You know, he's still here and he can still score goals. So there's a wee bit. So there's a little bit about that. But yeah, they thought deserved to win the match. You know, they were well in control. Uh, and yeah, a really good performance. Another 5 goals as well. You know, Liverpool scored 5 goals to win the championship. Celtic scored 5 goals to win the championship as well. And in terms if they deserve to win the title, absolutely they did. They've been by far and away the best team in the country. You know, they've had not really had blips through the season. They've had a couple of blips maybe, a couple of matches against Rangers, for example, their closest rivals, where they've not performed. But they've been in no way in any danger of you know, slipping into second place or anything like that. They've just been well ahead all season, and it was just a matter of time. I mean, the title was basically wrapped up before Christmas anyway. It was just a matter of time of when they could win the title. So, yeah, that was obviously Celtic crown champions. I want to ask you, Pearse, because there's been a little bit of chat last week before Celtic were crown champions that, you know, does this get boring for Celtic fans? Does this get boring for Celtic, the club? Um, like, what do you think about that? Do you think Celtic's dominance, because that's 13 titles they've won now in 14 seasons. You know, they're on course to winning our treble. Do you think this dominance of Celtic harms the league, the domestic football in Scotland, or do you disagree with that? What do you think?
Hard to say. But maybe I think if you think that's the case, then maybe Celtic and Rangers could potentially move down to England, which has always been the case, or you could, like you say, we've touched on it recently, expand the league. Because if you play each other only twice a season, around 4 times, you get more a chance of beating Celtic and Rangers on any given day. Whereas I think if you play 4 times, there's more chance that Celtic and Rangers will beat you. 3 out of 4 times, potentially 4 out of 4 times. Because like you say, it's like if you play twice, it's only like a one-off fixture. Especially at your home, you could try and make it as difficult and like float as much as possible. And then also different sides coming up as well, giving young players a chance. You just never know. But I think in terms, if you're going to ask any Celtic fan, I think Celtic fans would say, I don't think you ever get tired of winning. I think any side is never going to say they'll get tired of winning, because if you're winning, you're then progressing potentially into Europe and stuff like that. And as you've seen, Celtic have done that. And Rangers are pretty good in Europa League as well. So I think the only way to do that is investment. And I think you have to ask the hierarchy at the SFA, because I think the TV money is not big enough and probably not shared equally enough across the board. So I think that's going to be a boardroom level decision in terms of the finance of the league, to help support these other clubs, and give them a chance to compete. Give them a chance to compete for the title, because it's been the 80s since another side has won the league besides Celtic Rangers. So, and that was also Sir Alex Ferguson's Aberdeen side. So, yeah, I'm pretty sure every other football fan from either Celtic or Rangers would love to see Celtic Rangers leave the league, because it would give them a chance to win silverware. But like you say, Celtic and Rangers would obviously winning. That's built into their foundations. You know what I mean? Especially Celtic 13 the last 14. They won 9 in a row, then they get beat for the 10 in a row. And then they've won ever since. So I think probably the best thing to do is probably make sure the other clubs are better financed. But I think obviously the stronger Celtic and Rangers get in Europe, and the more money they get, it's just going to become. The gap's going to be bigger. It's like the English Premier League to the Championship. It's going to be night and day. So I think, like you say, that's a decision for the SFA to handle. I think, not me.
Yeah, it is a difficult one. You know, I sort of understand where clubs, like, you know, the not the biggest clubs in Scotland. I understand where they come from because you know, the money that they generate compared to Celtic is night and day. I mean, compare Ross County's wage bill to Celtic's wage bill. I mean, it's 10, like Celtic's wage bill compared to Ross County's is like 10 times bigger. So Ross County will be asking the question like, how on earth are we supposed to ever dream of getting to to getting the chance of potentially lifting the 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 biggest prize in Scottish football if financially we're nowhere near Celtic. So I do understand where they come from that, but at the end of the day, it's not Celtic's fault. I mean, this is the league that they're in. I mean, the closest rivals Rangers, who they're not in the greatest position at the moment. They're nowhere near winning a title. So Celtic, it's not their issue. They have to just play the matches that they play, and they're always going to be favourites to win the title due to the squad that they've got, due to the fan base, the size of the club. So it's not their issue. Um, it's up to the other clubs to sort of make a challenge. But I don't know. I do worry slightly about the future because if we're sitting here in 15, 20 years' time, if we're doing the podcast and, we're talking about Celtic winning another title, and if I were to say to you, oh, that's Celtic's 44th title in 45 seasons, I don't think you can have that. That's just a situation that, that's hard to comprehend. So I think in the future, there's going to have to be something that changes in Scottish football.
Yeah.
I don't know what, but for Celtic fans, they'll disagree with that. They'll be like, no, 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 like winning the league every season, that's definitely what we want to do, and I totally agree with that.
But
And I obviously
what
I
they've got
can't.
to say is the fact is, although these clubs are saying these things, right, that they're never going to win,
Mhm.
the fact is they're not bleeding through enough Scottish talent. If they're
Yeah,
not,
that's another point.
then
Yeah,
they may as well bleed through Scottish talent. But they're signing players from England Conference League, like old
yeah,
players. Right? If you're not going to win anything, but you still want to compete and develop, you can give pathways to young players that are good enough and give them that opportunity and then you can make money from obviously selling those assets like
exactly. Yeah,
Liverpool have done in previous. Hibernian have done, and look at Lennon Miller at Motherwell. He's going to go for a top dollar fee, but
yeah,
there's not many around in the Scottish top flight
yeah,
like young
yeah. I
players.
totally agree.
And
Yeah.
that goes to Celtic and Rangers, but Celtic and Rangers have got a different pressure. They have to win
Hmm.
every, so they need to bleed them in a little bit. Whereas these clubs that are potentially not going to win anything, but they can always compete in the cups. That's where they should aim to try win, like the Scottish Cup, the FA Cup, the Scottish Cup, and the League Cup. But like you say, there's not enough Scottish young talent coming through into the
Yeah,
Scottish top flight, and that's what I'm saying. If you're going to be this kind of defeatist mentality, oh, we never win anything. Well, you can help yourself earn more money and help yourself develop young players and give that pathway to young Scottish players because that's probably the best way forward as a club rather than signing players that are from abroad that you've never tried and tested in the league because they're never tried and tested. You never know they're going to work out. Just that you never know young players going to work out. And I think
yeah,
that's an issue across the whole board of Scottish top flight that there's not enough young talent come through, and that's why you don't really see a lot of young Scottish players staying in Scotland because they want to go abroad, but they can challenge themselves because they're not getting opportunity.
yeah. I thought it's player trading that's the big problem as well for these clubs because they're signing players, but they're not selling players for any money, basically. And that is why I've always said that they need to start using their youth because if you use your youth players, you bring them through into the first team, they start playing, they start becoming, star players. Other clubs will look at that, and because that these players have come through the academy, these clubs can sell these players on for big fees. Then that will generate the money coming in. So I've always said that is something that these clubs have to start doing if they've got any chance of wanting to start being more competitive in the domestic league. Because I think if they're signing players that are in their 30s from down in the bottom leagues of England, I don't think that's necessarily the way to go, because they're not going to get any money from these kind of players, and then these players will probably end up just leaving on a free transfer, and you've just you've basically just wasted an opportunity for a young player to come through the academy. So I definitely do think it is a big problem. But it's a complicated issue. So I don't know. I think this is something that we have to talk about more in depth in the future. But yeah, I did think it was worth mentioning. But just before we move on, we have also another bit of news from the Scottish Premier League. So it was confirmed on Sunday, 27th of April, that Hearts had parted company with manager Neil Critchley after a defeat against Dundee on Saturday. So Hearts parting company with Neil Critchley. What's your thoughts, Pearse?
I think it was inevitable, to be honest. He came in. Obviously, Hearts are rock bottom of the league. Hibs are just above them. And look what Hibs are comfortably sitting third. And Hearts missed it in top six. They get put out of the cup in the Scottish Cup semi-final, and also lost at the weekend. So I think it's been a really bad couple of weeks for Hearts. And with your closest rivals being in a similar level playing field when the manager came in, and I think the fans have never really took to Critchley, although he's playing a nice sort of brand of football, but they don't care. Hearts fans will demand just winning football, and that's what they want. And obviously, Hearts and Hibs are massive clubs in Scottish football. They should never be in the bottom six. Same with Aberdeen. That should be like the top half of the table, and I think that was just a fairly nearly coffin at the weekend. I think Hearts are just as a collective just haven't been good enough this season, and they sit where they are deservedly so. And I think the manager had to go, and I think they'll look in a new direction, maybe somebody more experienced, come the summer. But that remains to be seen. But Neil Critchley will be sacked by Hearts.
Yeah, I wasn't surprised as well. It wasn't inevitable. It never really got worked. There was never really any bounce as well. They were knocked out early in the Conference League as well, a match that they should have won. Nothing that suggested to me that he was going to take Hearts forward. So I wasn't surprised. And yeah, that's another manager that Hearts are now going to be looking to appoint next. So just before we move on, we've obviously got the last Glasgow derby of the season on Sunday, which is Rangers versus Celtic at Ibrox. So with obviously Celtic confirmed champions, this there's not much carrying into it apart from pride. So Pearse, what's your thoughts on the upcoming match?
Looking forward to it, obviously. These games are always throw up something. And also Rangers had the better upper hand this season, regardless of their poor form domestically. They've always seemed to rise to the occasion of these fixtures. And obviously Rangers has got a great record overall. But obviously the last game they lost 3-2 Celtic at Celtic Park. Obviously Rangers went 2-0 up early on. Celtic rallied back, and then Rangers popped up with a late winner. And obviously Celtic are now confirmed champions. Usually when this fixture happens in recent seasons, at this sort of end of the season, Rangers usually win because obviously Celtic have usually had the league wrapped up at that point, and maybe some of the players. But I think this might be different this year, because obviously Celtic have got a cup final to look forward to. And they want to get good momentum into that as soon as possible. And obviously they'd had a mini blip already in the season. While they're looking to go over that hurdle and kick on and just steamroll their way to the championship. And I think Roger said that recently as well. And obviously, Barry Ferguson's not really happy with his side's inconsistent form recently as well. So it could go either way. It's like so hard to call. Like you say, there's not a lot riding on it, but bragging rights is always riding on it, and this fixture is always special. And obviously, fans are back in the stadium this season, so it makes it even more special. And obviously, Ibrox always be a tough place for Celtic to go to get a result, regardless if fans are there or not. And obviously, Rangers, they've got the upper hand this season. Celtic have only won one game outright. Obviously, won the cup and penalties, cup semi final penalties, the League Cup semi final. But Rangers obviously get the last two wins. So they'll be behind confidence that they can replicate that again and just rise to the occasion. But I think that's the mentality issue that Rangers have got this season. A lot of players only turn up for the big games, European games and the Celtic games, whereas I think the so-called small teams, they don't seem to rise to the occasion, or they don't want to work hard. But the Manchester scene is going to be interesting, and obviously massive boost this weekend is obviously Callum McGregor's going to be in the team, which he was missing last time, and he was, like we mentioned, he was a massive miss last time for Celtic. And also Rangers won that. Rangers the last two games have won the midfield battle, with Raskin and Diamandi being like the catalyst for that. So I think McGregor back in there will give Celtic a massive boost. But like you say, it can go either way. But I'm expecting a Celtic win because the recent form of Rangers, and Celtic are looking to finish the season stronger at the cup final, and they've been hurting for the last two defeats to Rangers. So I'm expecting a Celtic win.
Yeah, it's actually quite an interesting one because obviously, um, you know, I'm thinking about it based on the fact that Rangers have won the last two derbies. And so Rangers will be going into that match thinking that, well, knowing that they can compete with Celtic, considering the two matches before, whereas Celtic will be going into it, I think, with a little bit of revenge on their mind. The fact that they've slipped up both times. So it's not really it's not really a kind of nothing ride on it match because I think both teams have something to prove. Get into this match on Sunday. So I think there's quite a little bit riding on it, even though it doesn't do anything in terms of league positions or anything like that. So I think it is one to look forward to. Cam McGregor's obviously back in the team, as you said. That's quite a big point you made. That's quite, obviously he was missing, and he was a big miss for Celtic in the last match. The fact Celtic are going to Ibrox as well. Rangers fans at Ibrox, they'll be really wanting to win this last derby, just to kind of show Celtic that that we're still here. Whereas Celtic will want to go into the match, confirming their status as the top team in Scotland. So yeah, one to look forward to. Looking forward to the match, and obviously me and you will talk about it next week on the podcast, giving our thoughts on how the match went. So we'll move on now. So just before we talk about the Asian football news, Pearse, just a little bit of European news. So Real Madrid manager Carlo Ancelotti, it's been talked about recently that there's been a verbal agreement with him and Brazil for Carlo Ancelotti to become the new Brazil men's national team manager. So apparently, if he was to become manager, he would become the highest ever paid national team manager of a country. So I just want your thoughts first on Ancelotti becoming the Brazil national team manager, Pearse, if it happens.
I think it will happen. I think it's been on the cards for a couple of years. I think he's been put off because he wants to stay in Real Madrid as long as possible. Because I think he said this is his last club job, and I think obviously international will be his last job as a coach, as a manager. 'Cause I think he's had a really long, illustrious career, and he don't get called Don Carlo for a reason. I mean, like he's won wherever he's went. Besides play Everton, but he did a good job there as well. But like you say, he's won countless trophies, Champions Leagues. He's managed AC Milan, Juventus, Real Madrid. I mean, Bayern Munich, some really prestigious clubs. You don't get that reputation and manage these clubs and win the things that he's won without being a top manager. And I think the fact his relationship with Rodrigo, Vinicius Junior, all these Brazilian players, Eder Militao, Casemiro in the past, is going to stand in good stead for Brazil, because I think Brazil have got a lot of good, talented footballers. And the his relationship with the young Brazilian players is kind of, I think, it's persuade the Brazilian president and FA to go after Ancelotti, and I think he deserves a massive payday, because to get someone of his caliber to manage a national team rather than a club side is a massive coup, and Brazil could then potentially win Copa Americas and who knows, potentially the World Cup. So yeah, to get someone like Carlo Ancelotti, but I think, like you say, he's at a club that he knew, going back to Real Madrid, if you don't win everything available, or if you don't do what Perez wants, you're gone. It's a cutthroat business. Real Madrid, and Real Madrid is the best of the best for a reason, because they're so harsh to managers, to players. If you don't do well one season, you're gone. Doesn't matter what you've done in the past. And that's the nature of the beast, and that's what Real Madrid is. And I think Real Madrid this season have not been at the heights to where the previous season. And I think injuries haven't helped, similar to when Liverpool lost Van Dijk for a full season, and other key players like Alisson as well. So this season they've lost Eder Militao. He came back after a full season out, a few months, and then he did the cruciate in his other leg, his other knee. He's been out for the season. So somebody like Eder Militao's a massive miss, and obviously for me, who should have won the Ballon d'Or this year was Dani Carvajal instead of Rodri, because he won more than and he was more instrumental in Real Madrid and Spain. And he got his cruciate at the start of the season as well. So, and they've had issues at defence, and the balance of the side haven't worked well, and then obviously the addition of Mbappe Ancelotti hasn't figured out a best 11. And I think the team you had without Mbappe was better than it is with Mbappe. And the fact is that Perez wanted Mbappe regardless. He had to get his man. And now he's going to try to find a manager that will get Mbappe into the side with Vinicius, with Rodrigo, and get it cooking. And I think Ancelotti struggled this season. And obviously the way they went out in the Champions League to Arsenal was criminal, to be honest, because they were never in the tie. I thought Arsenal, and let's be honest, Arsenal have zero European pedigree. They've won zero Champions Leagues. Arteta's won virtually nothing as a manager. Although they do well in the league, but nearly best isn't good enough. Like finishing second in the league consistently isn't great. You're building a side, yeah, but if you're playing against the Champions League holders like Real Madrid and you walk all over them, there's an issue there, and it needs to be replaced. And unfortunately, he's going to go to a massive job in Brazil. He deserves it, and I think Real Madrid will then make the next step and appoint a young upcoming manager.
Yep, I agree. I think you just said there. In terms of Ancelotti to Brazil, I actually think it's a good move for him. I kind of see it as a good challenge for him. But you look at the Brazil national team, it definitely is a country, a national team that needs rebuilding. You see the team that they've got, the players that they have. It's a wash of talent. But I just think it misses the manager or the coach that can lead them. Uh, they have struggled, in the South American competitions, as you said, like the Copa America. Argentina have been dominant. They've actually struggled in the World Cup qualifiers. I think they're positioned like fifth or fourth or something. So it's really not been good enough for them for quite a while now, actually, as well. They haven't really competed for World Cups, for example, for a long time. So I definitely think they do need a manager like Ancelotti, to sort of lead them. He's obviously got the 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 charisma to lead a lot of the players that Brazil have. Obviously some Brazil players know him, like Vinicius Junior and Rodrigo. So I actually think for Ancelotti, it's good for him as well. I think the fact that it's international football, I think might suit him, because obviously international football is not every week. So I think maybe the taking that pressure off of the fact that club football, you're going at it every week, whereas in the national team you're not. And Ancelotti's not getting any older now. Sorry, he's not getting any younger now. Maybe it is time for him to go into that sort of different environment in terms of management. So I think it could be a good appointment for him. Whereas Ancelotti at Real Madrid, it looks like it has come to an end. It's not been good enough for them this season. The likes of the fact that they got the star player they wanted, Mbappe. Ancelotti hasn't seemed to sort of mould the team into that sort of winning machine that we thought they would be with Mbappe in the team. Champions League did not go well for them at all this season. That's their ultimate competition. Even in the group stage, they narrowly get through that, and they were comfortably beaten and knocked out by Arsenal. So, yeah, Champions League didn't go well for them, and the league hasn't gone well for them as well. Looks like Barcelona are going to run away and win that now. Well, Real Madrid have just been hanging on, hoping that Barcelona will slip up. So it just kind of looked like that Ancelotti Real Madrid sort of team has come to an end. So yeah, that looks like that's going to happen. Ancelotti to Brazil. That obviously means that Real Madrid are without a manager. But might not be for long, because it is looking like if Ancelotti does leave, that the new Real Madrid manager will be the Bayer Leverkusen manager, Xabi Alonso. He's obviously got a history of playing for Real Madrid as well. So, Pearse, what's your thoughts on that? Xabi Alonso to Real Madrid.
Quite excited for that appointment. Obviously, played for the club, knows what the standards and the expectations are. He won the league last year with Bayer Leverkusen against our Bayern Munich side that have won, I don't know how many league titles in a row before that. I think maybe 12. And that was unheard of, and that was he got his side playing brilliant football. And again, they're within touching distance this season. Again, they're probably not going to win it this year, but they've come close. Play really exciting branded football. Their wing backs are really high flying, get a lot of goals. Grimaldo, Frimpong, for example, and then they play two strikers as well. So they play a different system than what Real Madrid play just now. But whatever brand of football he plays, whatever he inherits, what I've watched for Leverkusen, they've been exciting to watch. They've always got a knack of scoring late goals as well, which is a mark of champions. They did a lot last year. They were unbeaten for the full season domestically until obviously they lost the Europa League final to Atalanta. But they went an unbeaten season, and that's unheard of. So I think the rumoured fee, I think, is like €7 or €8 million release clause. And Leverkusen are happy. They said that he could leave for any club that he played for previously in his football career, whether that be Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, or Liverpool. And Real Madrid are the ones that are coming calling now. And I think if Real Madrid come calling, you have to go, because I think Company is doing a decent job at Bayern Munich. And obviously Arne Slot's just won league with Liverpool, and they're on a nice path with him. So I think obviously the one that's available at the moment is Real Madrid. And that job doesn't become available too often. So I think now is probably the perfect time for Alonso to go to Spain and manage Real Madrid, because I think he's got a young squad. He's got experienced players as well, but he's got a chance to get them back on track. And I think for me, I think it's perfect fit, to be honest.
Yeah, I do agree as well. I think it probably is time for Alonso to take that next step. Obviously he is young. He's a young manager. So for him to go into Real Madrid, it's going to be a big challenge for him anyway. But the fact that he's got history of playing for Real Madrid, it's not going to take him that long to sort of, get embedded in, because he obviously knows the club. But it's obviously different being a manager of Real Madrid compared to being a player. You've got much more responsibility as a manager. So I do think it is time for him to make that step. I think it would be a good appointment for Real Madrid as well. I think it's a kind of appointment they need. Different ideas. The Real Madrid have got young players as well. I just think that kind of fresh voice, that kind of maybe manager that is sort of closer to them in age, might help them a little bit as well. So I think that's interesting as well. I think it's interesting actually how if Xabi Alonso did become the manager, how Real Madrid would play, because at Bayer Leverkusen he's just played the three at the back system with the two wing backs at Leverkusen, so with the Grimaldo and Frimpong. I don't see Real Madrid playing like that.
No,
So it's going to be interesting. Yeah,
they don't. And the fact is, I don't know if you've seen this season, Tom, but Real Madrid have a lack of centre halves.
they have
So
no fullbacks really as well. The
there's no
fullbacks have
no fullbacks, no centre halves. They've been playing too many centre back for I don't know how long. And they've got massive players and massive injuries, but they're on massive wages, so they can't really afford to bring somebody in stopgap when that's been an issue, because they know all season that Carvalho's been out injured. So they've had to play Lucas Vazquez, who's a right winger, fringe player,
been right back.
been right back, and he's been found out big time. Too many playing centre half when he's a midfielder,
Yep.
found out. And then you've got Real Asensio, who's been promoted from the youth, partnering. So, and then you've got Fran Garcia playing ahead of Ferland because he's injured as well. And Fran Garcia was at Rayo Vallecano last season, and
Yep.
the step up for
No.
him not been good
Yeah.
for him. So the issues have been defensively. So
Yep.
I don't see them playing three at the back.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So I don't see it as well, because they don't have the personnel, and I just Real Madrid. I don't think I've ever seen Real Madrid play three at the back.
No.
So it's going to be interesting how because he's always played a three at the back since he's come into Leverkusen, and look at the success that they've got from it. I mean, they've won the first ever Bundesliga title, and this season as well, they've competed really well in the Bundesliga, so they've done really well. So it's going to be interesting to see how he adapts, because they're going to be playing a four at the back. So it's going to see how. So that'll be good for him as well.
I think like, young coaches can adapt. If you're a good coach, it depends on what the squad you inherit. You can look at a squad, right, and you say, I've got a lot of centre halves, right? I've got good flying wing backs, and I've got 3-4 good strikers, and you then need to play two up top and the full backs, and it can change within games. The players can move about, rotation and stuff. But I think Real Madrid with Perez, he likes it to be a 4-3. So I think you have to kind of, although you can do your own thing on the squad, you still have to get the authority of Perez, because Perez is Mr. Madrid, and I don't think that would ever be allowed to play three at the back in Madrid, because you have to always be in the front foot.
And you've also got the thing of well is the fact that if Alexander Arnold joins, he can't. I've never seen him play wing back, so I don't see how that would happen. So it's going to be interesting if he this is all if he does. This is all hypothetical. We don't know, but it looks like it. But if he does, then it's going to be interesting to see how he adapts as manager. So yeah. So just thought we should bring that news to the podcast. And for the final part of the show, Pearse will now give his Asian football roundup.
Yeah, so with some K League One action at the weekend, with Saturday 26th April, and that was Suwon FC 1, Jumping Union Motors FC 2, FC Anyang 2, JJSK 1, and then Sunday the 27th April with 3 matches, and that was Pohang Steelers 1, FC Seoul 0, Daejeon Ha Citizen 1, Gangwon FC 0, Gimcheon Sangwoo 2, Ulsan HDFC 0. So the K League One's looking like I said, top of the table. Daejeon Ha Citizen get a 5-point lead over Jeonbuk, who have got a game in hand. So Daejeon Ha Citizen have got 11 games played, 23 points. Second, we've got Jeonbuk, 10 games played, 18 points. And then Gimcheon is third with 10 games played, 17 points. And then the last season champions, Ulsan, sitting fourth with 12 matches played and get 17 points. And at the bottom half the table, we've got 3 sides, all played 10 games. JJSK on 11 points and 10th, 11th, and is Daegu FC on 7 points. And 12th is Suwon FC, rock bottom, also on 7 points, both with a -6 goal difference. So incredibly tight at the bottom, as well as it is at the top. Yeah, so that's all your K League One action. Moving on to J League One action, at the weekend, with a lot of matches played on the Friday and only one match played on Saturday. So Friday, the 25th April, we had virtually a full card, and that was Avispa Fukuoka 1, Fagiano Okayama FC 1, Cashew Antlers 1, Nago Grampus 0, Kyoto Sanga FC 2, Yokohama FC 1, FC Michia Zelvia 0, Shonan Belmari 1, Tokyo Verde 1, Cerezo Osaka 0, FC Tokyo 3, Gambo Osaka 0, Ura Diamonds 1, Sanfrecce Hiroshima 0, and then one match on Saturday, 26th April, and that was Kashi Result 1, Alberts Nagata 1. So it's leading the table like this. At the top of the table, we've 13 matches played, Kyoto Sanga FC 24 points. Second, we've got Cash Antlers on 12 games played, 22 points. So a game in hand that they can then overtake. We've got Ura Diamonds, third place on 22 points, having played 13 matches. And Kashi Result in fourth with 12 matches played on 21 points. So 4 sides there stayed to be just to 3 points. So we're incredibly tight at the top half of the table. And at the bottom, we've got Yokohama F. Marinos, rock bottom. And that's obviously former Ange Postecoglou's former side, and obviously Kevin Muscat, who were champions not too long ago. In the last 2 seasons, they've had Anderson Lopez, who was the top goal scorer in the last 2 seasons. He's only got 1 goal this season, and they're really struggling. If they don't improve quickly, then I can see them having a really poor season and potentially getting relegated if they don't sort their things out quickly. In 19th District, Alberts Nagata on 9 points. Lugo Grampus making up the bottom 3 on 11 points. And outside the bottom 3, we've got Yokohama FC on 12 points. So in terms of other Asian football news, with the AFC Champions League Elite quarter-final matches played. So Saturday, the 26th of April, with Al Hilal 7, Guangzhou FC 0. Sunday, 27th April, with Al Ali 3, Buriram United 0, Yokohama F. Marinos 1, Al Nassr 4. Monday, 20th of April, with Kawasaki Frontale 3, Al Sadd 2. So semi-finals are now set up like this. We have Al Hilal versus Al Ali. That's the Saudi Arabia matchup. And then Thursday, the 1st of May, we've got Al Nassr, Cristiano Ronaldo's Al Nassr versus Kawasaki Frontale, the only Southeast Asian side left in the competition. After obviously Guangzhou FC were knocked out and Yokohama Marinos were knocked out as well. But obviously Guangzhou FC get absolutely terrorised by Al Hilal, the Saudi champions. But obviously Guangzhou FC have got one of the smallest budgets in the K-League, never mind in Asia. So it was always an uphill task. But to even make it to the quarterfinals was a massive coup for Guangzhou FC because they're such a small club with such a small budget. But Al Nassr versus Kawasaki Frontale, Thursday, the 1st of May, and that is set for a 1:30 AM kickoff Korea and Japan Southern Time, with the final set to be played on Saturday, the 3rd of May at 7 PM. So Celtic forward, former Celtic forward and current Japanese international Kyogo Furuhashi has only played a mere 120 minutes of football for Rennes this season since his £10 million move in January. Not going to plan for the Japanese international. With Guangzhou FC's elimination from the Asian Champions League, the K-League's representatives for the AFC club competitions for this season have been finalised. So AFC Champions League elite teams will be Ulsan HDFC, Gangwon FC, and Seoul FC Seoul. And for the Asian Champions League 2, we'll have one representative, and that is Pohang Steelers. So Adidas have dropped a South Korea-inspired F50 boot for Tottenham and South Korea captain Son Heung-Min, the Spurs captain's second signature pair from the 3-stripe, arrives in a colourway inspired by the South Korean flag. And that is all your latest Asian football news.
Thank you, Pearse, and thank you everyone for listening to this episode of the Football Chuggu Podcast. This podcast will be available to listen to on the Football Chuggu YouTube channel and also the Football Chuggu website. Thanks for listening and see you soon.
All right.